Oh, smoker hot day's coming. Of course, is the day I got to sling, hand pick hundreds of square bales off the field today in the heat, and get them back in and stacked up in the barn. Running solo today too. But what it is. Received another important email last night, adding up to the information dump we're going to dump. So that's a really, really good thing. And obviously I never hold anything back. I share with you guys when I get it, what I can, and hopefully put it together best as I can. And that's what I'm doing. So the amount of information I receive, the first one, it would be like taking 2.5 paragraphs, sharing it with you guys, and then waiting, I don't know how long, for the next installment to add to the rest of the paragraph, right? So now we've got a good handful of paragraphs ready to go. It's just some of it has to be rearranged a little bit to ensure the concealment of the other scientist's identity. There you go. Simple as that. Now, quick note. I've had this photograph emailed to me I don't know how many times. Can you see it? Whole pile of people freaked out. It's been all over the internet. I've emailed it to me I don't know how many times. I just got it again. And everybody claiming it's some kind of hyena thing shot in West Virginia. Okay, here you go. I hope every single person that emailed that to me is listening, because it is a hyena and it was shot on a big game hunt by a big game hunter in Africa. End of story. Okay, got that one out of the way. Now, let's get some voices heard. Well, it's still cool out, and I couldn't quite get those trail cameras out yesterday. I spent so much time getting the GoPros in the bottom of the river. By the time I did, 2 people showed up. They would have seen me placing the cameras, possibly. And it's like $1,000 worth of cameras, so you have to do it absolute stealth. And when I set my cameras, I am setting them to conceal them from human beings every single time, no matter where I am. So, nobody's here right now, so maybe, hopefully, I'll get them out after I get this important stuff done. Now let's listen to this. This is titled "Happened to Two of Us." Hello, Steve. My name is Ron, or Edward if you received a message from me on Facebook. I actually don't receive messages on Facebook, okay? Just so you guys know. I post on Instagram, I think, and it flings it over the Facebook pages automatically. And if it's something important, I'll share it around a few pages and then I run. So, Facebook's not a way to get a hold of me. It's still confusing, so roll with it. And for the content and sharing of this story, you can use my real name, Ron. So, where do I start, or what story do I tell? I've had so many unexplained, scary, freaky, downright I don't believe it experiences with the real, supernatural, spiritual, demonic, not from this world, and I often wondered if I'm crazy. Well, I'm not. Any story I tell you about me truly happened. I'm 59 years old. I'm not a hunter. Just not my thing. I am an outdoorsman. Been solo hiking / camping with friends. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be highly skilled when out there. But I can survive in an emergency, and I've learned to trust my gut. This is not a hunting story. Or the woods story. A couple typos. The incident happened in my hometown, Independence, Missouri. I lived at this time in a townhome community. No county anywhere. Perfect suburban living. Neighborhoods all over, highly traveled, main and side roads. The townhome complex I lived in had around 500 units. Lots of families, lots of kids. The neighborhood across the street, same way. It's a mile between 2 main roads, Truman Road and 23rd Street, which is also known as 78 Highway. They both run east and west. The main road connecting the two is Swope. It runs north and south. I lived on the east side of Swope. The townhome complex covered a very large area along Swope. About 1/3 of a mile from 23rd Street going north on Swope, the townhome complex ends, and there's a paved road that goes east off Swope down a steep grade, turning to the north through some S-curves. No reason for them. Then turning back to the west up the hill and to Swope again. It was a weird loop. Paved road down a hill like a ravine, snaking around and back up. Lots of land on the outside of the road and inside the loop, undeveloped with very tall grass and brush. There are also no trees except for the very bottom of the road where it snakes north and south, only on the east edge of the road. That spot was trees, very thick brush, a washout creek, very small hidden pond. If you didn't hike back in there, you would never see the pond from this freaky road. At the 2/3 mile, slope drops downhill, very steep between these large rock bluffs, down to Truman Road, all heavily wooded area. It appears to me that at some point in time, Truman Road was a river. There are bluffs on both sides that run east and west, rocky, water-worn bluffs. There is no history or map that tells of a river being there, but the terrain says there was. Back to Freaky Road. This is 1981. This Freaky Road didn't have a name, no street sign, just a paved loop of a road. There are kids everywhere, riding bikes, skateboards, and playing. But no one ever played on or went down that road. It was super weird. The townhome complex had a baseball field just on the south side of Freaky Road. 6-foot chain link fence went from swope east the hill adjacent to Freaky Road, and where the road turned north to the fence continued east. We're completely separated from Freaky Road. If our baseball went over the fence, it stayed. No one would go get it. That's really weird. No one ever went down the road. Not one vehicle, bike, walker, no one. Even stranger, no grown-ups talked about the road. There wasn't even any trash dumping. Let that sink in. That's really weird, man. Total abandoned road with no streetlights, dark as hell at night, not a single person dumped trash. My friend owned a beautiful German Shepherd. His name was Sammy. We walked his dog a lot. Along Swope Road, Sammy was fine. But when we tried to go down Freaky Road, he was different. 100 feet down the road, Sammy would stop, ears straight up, his tail down, his body still intense, his head looking straight down the road. No growling or whimpering, just fixed. No head movement, staring down the road. When we tried to get Sammy to turn around and go back to the swope, he wouldn't turn. He would go back up, always looking down the road until we got to swope, then he would turn and walk with us as if nothing happened. On February night in '81, I drove my car down Freaky Road. I had my girlfriend with me, and we thought it would be a great place to make out. It's very cold, like around zero. Wind chill was in the negative teens. I drive all the way down the hill. My car was facing south. Remember, it's a loop, so you can enter the road at two different areas along swope. Every bottom of the hill. Sorry, very bottom of the hill. Thick wood to my east. I'm parked on the west side of the road by the thick grass and brush. Side note, not in all my time that I've been down this road and explored the area did I ever see game trails. Nothing lived there. The bush and the grass are thick. You can walk through it, but it's very difficult. I turn the car off. We're listening to the radio. We start to kiss, and my girlfriend said, "Wait." She's very uneasy. I made sure the doors were locked. Her side is right up against the brush. There's about 2 feet between the car and the brush. I was trying to assure her that everything is okay. She looked at me and said, "It's not. Someone or something is watching us." I told her no one's in there. In their right mind would be outside in the bushes watching us. It was way too cold. She grabs my leg and starts to cry, saying over and over, "We're being watched." I'm looking out all the windows and I see nothing. I turned off the radio and intently listened and heard nothing. Then there was a sound. It was very low and deep, no words or a growl, just this low, deep sound that was rhythmic. It started to get louder. It was rhythmic. It was this rhythmic chant. Its sound was intense and the chant getting faster. I started to see movement in the bushes. The chant is now a full-blown scream. We're holding our hands over our ears. The scream hurt our ears. The chant was vibrating in our bodies. I'm seeing this glow of light in the bushes. Can't describe the light. It's just this weird glow, and it was getting brighter and bigger and coming right at us. The defying chant, the bright light, the vibrations in our bodies, and now the ground and the car are shaking. I was very confused. My girlfriend crying and screaming hysterically. I'm turning the key to start the car and it's not wanting to start. It was like all the power was being drained from the car. We've only been parked for 10 or 15 minutes. Nowhere near long enough for my battery to drain. And although it's very cold, not long enough for the engine to completely cool and go cold. I keep trying to start the car. Everything outside is still intensifying. I thought my eardrums are gonna bust. My girlfriend gives a scream of sheer death. I look at her, and out the window, the thing that was making the noise and the glow broke through the bushes. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. It was him looking, and it was glowing. I could see teeth and fangs, eyes glowed fire blue. It had a body with arms and hands, but I couldn't see the legs. The glow was like blue flame, and the thing would flicker like fire. The car started, I put it in first, stomped on the gas, and dumped the clutch. The car was backfiring and didn't want to run. I kept that gas pedal buried and slammed second gear. The farther I got away from that thing, the better the car ran. Wide open, down Freaky Road. I'm in third gear now, and we're flat. Getting it. I look in the rearview mirror, and this thing is now in the road, and it's enormous, at least 10 feet tall and floating. Its eyes are full of rage as it is raising its arms in the air above its head. Mouth is wide open, and it's emitting this yell, and I can feel its power. It lowers one arm and points at us. I thought, this is it, we're gonna die. This thing's gonna consume us with its power, and we'll be dead. I made a hard turn to the right, full throttle, up the hill towards Swope, and poof, the thing's gone. The car's running perfect. There's no more sense of death. There's no fear. I'm now heading westbound on 78 Highway, heading to the grocery store. While there, very well lit parking lot, lots of people. Oh, sorry, why there? Very well lit parking lot, lots of people. Girlfriend and I sat and cried for half an hour, thanking Jesus we were alive. We didn't go back down Freaky Road, nor did we tell anyone what happened. Well, 6 months later, I told my friend what happened, and he started to cry and had this look of fear on his face. He then told me his story that happened on a dead-end road the same week as my encounter, and he was a mile away from where I was. He saw the same thing. His story is more intense and has a very surprising fact about it, but I'll share that one later. Thanks for reading this. Please respond back that you did read this. You and my friend are the only ones I've shared this with. Thank you, Ron. That is a shit eater, Ron. I don't think anybody'd envy you or want that to happen ever in any lifetime. I have nothing I can say to that. Haven't a clue. I don't think I've read that description yet. You should probably share this video with your friend. Give him the confidence of getting shit off his chest if that's what he needs to do. And that was one of the most detailed accounts of geographically where you were. And I'll bet somebody from that neighboring area is going to write in. Or I will bet you there's somebody listening right now who's familiar with the zone and they're going to go look themselves. Right? What a shit eater. I don't know what that was. I haven't a clue. Maybe Dave Pilatus might have something similar on his files. I don't know. That is one creepy frickin' story. It's almost like a horror movie. Could be one, right? Except there's no answer to what it was in the end of the movie. Be safe, man. Thanks for being brave and sharing that shit-eating experience. Fuck. What a frickin'... There's so much shit going on, I'll tell you what. Take from it what you will or leave it, you guys. There is some crazy, what we have been raised to believe as crazy, shit going on non-stop. And we're talking about it now, no matter what. Sasquatch Sightings and Therapy is the title of this one. Hello, Steve. I'm a psychotherapist living and working in Ontario. I've been watching the channel for a few years now. I've always believed that Sasquatch could exist. And I did have an unusual experience once over 20 years ago when I accompanied my then boyfriend and his band across the border into New York State. Sounds familiar. I wonder if you read this. It's not very long. Let's do it again. They planned on trying to get some gigs and wanted me along with my boyfriend's sister to come with them across the border to transport a drum set. We ended up camping somewhere overnight. It seemed somewhat isolated. We didn't notice any other campers. We saw no one else there, and as far as I know, it wasn't a campground, as it felt like we were in the middle of the forest. During the night, I heard what sounded like bipedal footsteps walking around our tents. I was scared and I couldn't sleep. The steps sounded heavy, and I knew it wasn't an animal. Intuitively, I believe we know the sound of something walking on 2 feet or 4. My boyfriend was asleep, and I didn't bother waking him. I knew there was something unusual about the sound. I didn't think a random person would be walking around a forest in the middle of the night. The next morning I was exhausted from not having slept much, and stated it to the group. My boyfriend's friend asked, "Was it the noises at night that kept you up?" I replied, "Yes." He nodded, gesturing that he too heard them, but we never spoke about what the noises were. I don't know if that was inaccurate. I don't know if that was an encounter or not, but it always left me wondering what it was. Aside from that, my main motive for writing to you is because I hear very often on your channel, from those who write in, how people are traumatized by their experiences, and it sickens me to hear that therapists have mocked or dismissed people who come into their office in a vulnerable and traumatizing state. As a therapist, I thought I'd offer some insight for your listeners/viewers. Here's some tips I'd like to share when it comes to therapy and what might help them best. First off, if any therapist mocks or dismisses your experience, find another therapist. We're not in the profession of challenging a client's claim or telling someone whether they experienced something or not. We're there to help people work through issues based on the client's experiences without judging or evaluating what those experiences are. Second, find an EMDR therapist. They do not have to be certified, just be trained in EMDR. I am an EMDR therapist and have seen some great results with my clients. I don't know what that stands for. Third, if you do not want to tell your therapist what you saw, you don't need to. I've had clients not want to completely disclose all details of some traumatic event, and it is not always necessary to do so. With EMDR, it doesn't matter if you tell your therapist you saw a bear or a Sasquatch. The technique itself helps to alleviate the trauma based on your memory of it, and what words you want to use are not relevant. It doesn't actually matter what you want to call something. Fourth, some therapists do note in their description of services a spiritual component to their practice or something to that effect, and these therapists are usually more open-minded to unexplainable experiences. Help this helps, and if there are those who need help in Ontario and you want to pass on my email along, you may do so. I'm not trying to plug my practice in any way, but do want people to know there are some open-minded therapists who can help. Warm regards, Deborah Philippi, RP. Deborah, you are so absolutely appreciated. Thank you so much for coming forward. And I will have to save your email, because obviously I've got thousands. As soon as I mark it as read, it goes into the stack. And if people want to take up Deborah on her offer, email me. All right, and I will be able to find her email and get it to you. That's very, very generous. Very generous move you just did there, Deborah. Thank you very much for that. All right, here we go. No subject for the title of this one. Hello, everyone. Please do not use my name, as I'm a prominent member in my field of employment. However, I appreciate you giving us a platform to get these encounters off our chest, Steve. Unfortunately, non-believers I've spoken to about my encounters either ridicule or scoff at my experiences. How can such an educated person believe in such nonsense? Many have quipped at my remarks, so much so that eventually you begin to keep things to yourself. Let me jump right in. My first encounter with these beings was when I was a small child with my family on our way to a vacation spot we frequented in South Carolina. We were driving through the Interstate 40 in Tennessee through the Smoky Mountains, when my father exclaimed, "What is that?" Well, looked up and noticed a relatively large, but not huge, reddish creature sitting off the highway with its back to us, hunched over in a crouching position. This is in the early morning, as we would like to leave our home in southern Ohio in the middle of the night so we could reach South Carolina midday. The creature resembled an orangutan, but appeared to have longer legs. My older brother exclaimed, "Dad, that was a Bigfoot." There were a decent amount of cars on the road at the time, and there was not a lot of room to pull over, so we kept going, but my interest in the subject was definitely sparked. Jump ahead approximately 10 years. I'm 16 now, and my aunt and uncle have invited my older brother and I on a fishing trip with them and my cousins down at Lake Norris, Tennessee. We jumped at the opportunity, as most young men would. We had no idea the trip would change our lives. We arrived at the lake and we were shocked at how big and remote the area was. The lake itself is over 200 miles long and can be over a mile long at points, with countless inlets to explore. We had rented a houseboat and set off to find a good fishing spot free from other people. The first few days of the trip were perfect. We went tubing, swimming, and fishing to our heart's content. It wasn't until we continued exploring the lake that we had a hair-raising encounter. We had decided to spend the day finding the perfect spot on the lake to spend the rest of our vacation until my uncle found an inlet that was extremely remote. We spent 2 days there and did not see another soul, and all was well until my oldest cousin and his wife decided to go hiking because she had gotten tired of being around all of us teenage boys. No doubt. They'd been gone for a few hours and we were eating lunch when suddenly our peaceful day came crashing to an end. We heard a loud noise and my cousin cursing, and they came running out of the woods looking exhausted. My cousin's wife was in tears and hysterical, and my cousin, who was a military vet and police officer, was on full alert, albeit out of breath, and brandishing his firearm. My uncle asked him what the hell was going on, and all my cousin could say was, "Water." After he caught his breath and got his bearings, we heard him telling my uncle that they saw something up in the hills while they were hiking. They had hiked up the hills on a game trail they found until they discovered a large area that appeared to have been bedded down by something big. My cousin was not a hunter, and he began to think a black bear may be nearby, so he told his wife to keep an eye out. As they continued, they reached a large plateau that had chest-high grass, and they stopped for a minute to gaze at the beautiful sight. That's when they heard it. Across the field, my cousin and his wife heard a rustling noise, and my cousin began to walk closer to get a look to see if he could see what it was. That's when he said something popped straight up and towered above the 4-foot grass and turned around whilst traversing a steep incline, approximately 10 feet high, on 2 feet without the slightest bit of trouble. My cousin said it was huge. Upon seeing this, his wife freaked out, did the one thing you never do, she ran. She began to run as fast as she could, screaming with my cousin in full pursuit, telling her to stop running, in case this creature or others was still watching them. She's in a panic state of shock, however, and would not listen. That's when my cousin began to hear noises behind him, as if something large was pursuing them. He was doing his best to look behind him as he was running, but he failed to get visuals on what was tailing them. This continued all the way down the mountainside. That would suck. My uncle, who was a man's man, was very skeptical and told them they had seen a bear or a person up there and there's nothing to be afraid of. And if anything did cause them trouble, he and my cousin were both armed, but he was not going to give up his fishing spot, and we had found a great secluded one. So my youngest cousin, following his dad's lead, began to call the whole situation nonsense, and he started yelling and screaming and throwing all the special floating golf balls we had brought so we could hit them in the lake and then go retrieve them. We were all kind of riled and excited, but after a while everyone calmed down and we decided to stay at the spot, but to tether the boat to the trees so we could stay out in the water at nighttime. So my cousin's wife and my aunt were placided. My older brother, one of my cousins, and I, however, waited for our moment, and we snuck off to go up the hill to see if we could catch a sighting ourselves. We were too young and dumb, and full of you-know-what, to know any better. We found the game trail and hiked up the hill as fast as we could to try and find the plateaued area where the sighting occurred. We eventually made it to the top and even saw the large bedded down area slightly off the trail, but we did not see the creature or hear anything. To be honest, the forest was eerily quiet for a summer's day, and there was an eerie feeling of being watched we all felt. Having not seen anything, we decided to get back to the boat before our uncle got back from fishing and found out what we had done. My brother, however, was not giving up just yet. He snatched some hot dogs and set them out as bait. We got back before my uncle tethered the boat and pulled us out into the deep water for the night. As night fell and everyone went to sleep, the three of us who had snuck out earlier watched out the glass doors of the boat from our sleeping area to see if anything would come out and take the bait. My uncle had gotten his spotlight out and left it focused on the shore all night to give my cousin's wife a sense of security. We all got quiet until we saw a movement and noticed something on the light's edge. Something had come for the bait. That's when all our excitement came to a head, until we saw a bobcat come out and snatch up our bait and disappear into the woods. Discouraged, we decided to go to bed after staying up a while longer with no activity. Later on, I awoke to a loud noise, followed by a rolling sound above me. I thought maybe someone above me had dropped something, and I went back to bed. Before I could doze back off, I heard it again, and I sat up to see my cousin and brother were up too. They said that was the third time it had happened. They're peeking out the door trying to see what was happening, but the shore was silent. Still half asleep, I asked maybe someone up above had dropped something, to which my brother replied, "Dude, there's no room above us. The bedrooms are on the second story towards the front of the boat. There's something hitting the roof." This continued until we saw the spotlight begin to pan the forest, and we heard my uncle shouting, "Who's out there? I'm armed and I'll F you up if you don't quit it." The noises would stop and then begin again. Shortly after, my uncle would go back to bed. It continued most of the night, and everyone was on edge because we were essentially stuck in situ due to being tethered to trees on shore. Once the sun came up, we were all out on deck and we're all asking what the F was going on last night. That's when my brother was like, "Holy shit, look at this." I looked at the water and there were golf balls floating all around the boat in the still water. We all looked at each other and we were like, what the F? Something must have been watching my youngest cousin throwing the golf balls in the woods and then methodically collected them and thrown them back at us during the night. Even my skeptical uncle was shocked by this because there was no way you could find those balls in the thick woods and they were not glow in the dark. He went to shore, untethered us, and we left that area for good. My brother wanted to go back into the woods and look for tracks, but my uncle wasn't having it. Whatever these beings are, they're intelligent and must have excellent night vision and or senses of smell to be able to see those golf balls at night or detect the human scent on them. I've never been back to Lake Norris, but I've had some other encounters as well. But I'll give someone else a turn to share their experience for now. Keep up the good work, Steve, and thanks for this platform. Cheers. All right, man, I got you. Nothing shared. And that poor woman. I can't imagine what it'd be like to have absolutely zero clue about these things. Be in the woods, see one, get chased by one, and then have to stay the night, even within a mile there, 10 miles. That's a real tough one. That'd be really, really tough on the mind, wouldn't it? Poor woman. There you go. Another group of people join the Club of No Return, which is one frickin' big club. I can't explain how they pick up those things, but they do with rocks, small pebbles, sticks, acorns, and people throw them back in the dark. They throw the exact same one back right away. Who knows how it happens? Haven't a clue, but they're doing it. All right, here we go. Maybe another small puzzle piece. Hello, Steve. My name is Wade Meadows. Grew up hiking Logan Canyon in northern Utah. I've hiked every canyon and draw. People in my life didn't even believe me when I saw an albino mule deer behind Second Dam. Heard footsteps while hiking quite often, but always attributed it to my own. I recorded a sad bass scream on my Samsung flip phone back in 2014 in Monroe County, West Virginia. I sent the audio to West Virginia Departments of Wildlife, sent return receipt, requested, and got confirmation. A month later, called and no record of it. No, I don't still have the phone. My father's a game warden in Utah, and he saw Sasquatch tracks in the snow going up a ridge line approximately. Close friend got screamed at. My physician moved to northern Idaho and showed me a picture of a track she took while looking at a cabin to purchase. The more people we talked to about this, the more we lift one of the lies told to us. Now the puzzle piece. We've been fed fluoride, a bunch of other chemicals, other ways, in our water, toothpaste, etc. Fluoride's been shown to collect/calcify your pineal gland. I'm off a little bit this morning. Pineal gland is referred to as the third eye, located above the bridge of our noses. Pineal gland has many powers, but I understand it to affect subliminal perceptions. Could that be our sixth sense, our gut feeling? Then the people who have had low fluoride intake have a functioning pineal gland and can sense mind speak. Is this done on purpose? God bless you and all who have been affected by these people in the woods. Wade. P.S. Steve, please read the book of Jude, one chapter book before Revelation. See how you think it relates to what is happening now in our world. Okay, man. Thanks for the email. We hear a lot about that, Glenn. And then we also hear a shit pile from Utah. And you're right, the more you talk about it openly, the more feedback you get, and it is everywhere. Just thank God people are starting to become brave and kick the scared humans to the side and speak out loud. That's what we're after here. What was I going to say? Quick note. I received a couple emails. I didn't even get through them. People scathing me for potentially about to drop a hint that Russia and China made Sasquatch crossing humans than animals, where I have never mentioned that even remotely closely, not once. All right? You got to listen to my words, you guys, all you. Listen to my words. It's so funny how you can speak clearly, and I don't know how many out of 10 human beings will pick it up as you said something different and snap. Before I share what our scientists are going to share, I wanted everyone to look into the possibility that perhaps humans have been crossed with animals in the past by modern people, which was noted to have been China and Russia. That's all I said. It's got nothing to do with Sasquatch. Just that fact. And I also added in that fact, if you look into it yourself, that will potentially help you wrap your head around what's coming more easily. All right? I can't say this more clearly. Definitely modern man did not create Sasquatch. It's not even frickin' possible. But before you hear what's about to be shared from the scientists, you need to look into that possibility so that if you didn't have a clue anything like that even remotely went on, what you're going to have shared with you is going to make you freak out. Okay? End of story. Let's get this one shared. I was just trying to raise sheep. Hi Steve, how are you? I lived in total wilderness for 8 years, and it was in the Chilcotin area, high up on the plateau, about 50 minutes on logging roads northwest of Alexis Creek, BC. I found an old rundown cheap ranch no one wanted, and it was cheaper than a cabin on a few acres, for 478 acres, and an old big log home, 2,500 square feet, off the grid, totally remote and dead quiet, just what I wanted. I believed in Bigfoot, but I never thought I would actually have any encounters with one. You're definitely right in the zone for it, right there, I'll tell you what. The first winter there, the snow was about 2 feet deep, and I'd hiked about 200 yards away from the cabin. It was a nice sunny, calm day, and there was a line of old vehicles parked left to rust away. They were inside of the house and vice versa. I was surprised to see a long line of big footprints in the snow that walked up to the old trucks and cars, and they came from the lake, which was about 300 yards away. They did a small circle and then headed back towards the lake. I was a bit bugged by it. I thought some nosy people came on a skidoo, left at the lake, and walked up so they could stare at us while we were the new people in the area. I never did hear any skidoos or see any tracks, so I thought it was kind of weird. I haven't put a trail cam out, but they never came back. Then in the spring, I was hiking in the snow with my daughter, trying to find a missing sheep. We were climbing a steep hill and came across a set of very large footprints, 18 to 20 inches long, spaced far apart, 2.5 to 3 feet apart. They were going up the same hill. We could not understand how a person could do that uphill in the snow. I still thought it was a person, but the snow was melted. I could not see any boot markings in the prints. I thought maybe it was an elk or a moose stepping in their own tracks and making this weird effect of large human prints. We would not go down to get food often. It was 2.5 hours away, Williams Lake, if the roads were good, but we were low on food, and it was at Summit Lake Marsh, about 3 kilometers from the house. There was a very large opening on both sides of the road, and we saw large footprints walking in the snow by the road, doing large rambling circles. I thought it was a skidder walking around, but I could not see any machine tracks anywhere. I still did not think it was a Bigfoot. Then a year or two later, it was winter, and we were low on firewood. I had to go out in February and cut some pine beetle kill. It was a perfect day, sunny, calm. I was only about 1 kilometer from the house. I dropped a tree, but turned off the chainsaw because I needed something for my truck about 60 feet away. then I smelled a terrible smell, and it was confusing. I was the only one out there. No people lived there. Nearest one is 15 kilometers away, and this strong reek of rotten, burned garbage mixed with rotten, moldy old wet carpet was hitting me. I walked to my truck, smelled inside, nothing under the hood, nothing. The back box, nothing, and I felt like I was being watched. I stood still, scanned all the trees around me in all directions, but nothing. I still felt like something was watching me, but I went back to work, kept looking around as I worked, but nothing. Then in 2018, two things happened that made me accept that it was not anything else, and it was certainly Bigfoot. We lived through the hell of 2017 wildfires. We saw the dry lightning that started several fires around our ranch and reported it right away, but no one came for 3 weeks. They just let it burn because almost no one lived out there but us. We watched the fires grow and grow until after 6 weeks of separate fires, they merged just beside our ranch, and we were saved by a small Martian rain, which blocked the fire and sent it north of us. Thank God. The next summer, we were sitting in our house watching TV, YouTube, and we heard a terrible screeching roar that went right through our house. Even with the door shut, it was loud and long. We have four dogs that guard the ranch and sheep, but they just froze in the yard, not taking a step, heads down, silent. It was just that one loud scream/roar, and it was gone. I did not understand why Bigfoot would come to our house to roar at it. The next day, a neighbor let us know that lightning had started another fire about 10 kilometers south of us, but it was by the road, and the fire crews came right away and put it out. I wondered if the two events were related, as the Bigfoot talking to us, trying to warn us of fire. You never know, eh? Maybe. The last thing that happened was we had coyotes come almost every night, and my dogs would run them off. One night, the wolves started up howling about 200 feet from the house. Loud. So I went to get my rifle, and then we were hit by the loudest, longest, roaring yell that made our hearts stop, and my dogs were silent, and the wolves stopped. The wolves did not return after that roar, and I felt as though the Bigfoot was telling them to stay out. We moved after that. I never felt threatened by the Bigfoot. They could have killed me any time. Looking back, I think they were watching me and were trying to help us out. Or maybe they just were eating sheep and did not want to Maybe they were just eating sheep and did not want to share. But I always felt peace from them. I was not hunting, taking deer or elk or moose, not stealing their food, so maybe they were glad I was making sheep for them to eat. All the best, Harry Diachina. I hope I didn't butcher your name. I said all three versions that my simple brain could come up with. Thanks for that email, Harry. You moved shortly after that. I wonder if you moved due to the fire, everything getting annihilated around you, or did you move from feeling uneasy, or was it just coincidence time, right? And for any of you out there that think wolves might not come close to a house, I've had them right outside the cabin window while guiding up north. We had them come through, fanned out, come through, maybe even branch right around our cabin and camp, and howling like crazy right outside the cabins in the nighttime. Sounds pretty cool, actually, when you're not scared of them. And we go out there in our underwear with our headlamps on and our rifles, and we never see them. They're too smart. But it's something else to hear wolves howling right outside the window. Had it happen numerous times, but I haven't had a screech, scream, roar happen while I've been inside a cabin yet, knock on wood. I'm not into it either. But anyway, that area you're in, Harry, shit piles of, well, the whole province, man. From coast to Alberta, from the States to the Yukon, Alaska. The whole entire province, every province is absolutely inundated with sightings of these beings. And I really, really, really want to know why we're being lied to. Why is it absolute taboo to publicly acknowledge this shit show that's going on? Hopefully what's about to get shared with us is going to help, but sadly it is going to help, but then it just cracks open more rabbit holes, man. More rabbit holes. But it helps to put this one topic right there in plain view, semi-explained enough, And then if you are really interested in other topics, there's no going backwards. You got to keep going forward, and you're going to end up in more rabbit holes. That's all there is to it. But at least those other rabbit holes have plenty of information being shared about them. It's just the knowledge you acquire is going to help you accept the other knowledge, which for the most part can make you just shake your head and ask, who the hell came up with this stupid story? How did it get so popular? And that's been my stance on a lot of it, but now I have to accept the puzzle pieces getting put together, and I have to accept where they're pointing, and it backs up some other stories that we hear a lot. How's that for a bit of a confusing battle? Anyway, there's my shares for the day. It's not hot yet. Horses are almost done eating their brekkie. And I'm going to go take another stab at getting these trail cameras out to figure out exactly what the hell's going on with the bears here. If they are absolutely missing, or if I'm just missing them by fluke, because that can happen too, right? But it's a little much. If you guys remember last year how often I had a bear video here, they're coming up behind me when I was sitting reading all the time, right? Put a trail camera out there, I got 26 of them on there, I got owls, I got everything. We still have the eagles, still got the fish. But to my knowledge, I mean, even right behind me on the edge of that river, the bear tracks are always coming out across there. Nothing. So, I'm gonna get my ass in gear and start getting my detective work done. I'll be sharing more shortly.